This CyCast is provided to you by the Iowa State Letter Winners Club, bridging the gap between legend and legacy by engaging in our past to invest in our future.
Well, hi everyone. Welcome to our latest Iowa State CyCast, and we have a wonderful guest today, and our guest is one of the greatest women's basketball players in Iowa State history, without a doubt. She is Iowa State women's basketball first Hall of Famer. She is also the first women's basketball player in Iowa State history to have their number retired. In 1985, she graduated with 33 school records, including career points and career rebounds. So welcome to the CyCast, three-time All-Big 8 honoree, Tonya Burns-Sheehan.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, well, it's so excited to actually get to see you and meet you. And I guess the first question I have, Tonya, is how did you get interested in basketball? You grew up in a town called Leo, Indiana, which I believe is right outside Fort Wayne.
Correct.
So how did you get interested in basketball?
I think in elementary school, they had intramurals, and they had basketball. And I said to the PE teacher, I want to do the basketball intramurals. And he said, no, that's for boys. The gymnastics is for girls. Now, I've been tall my entire life, and I was like, gymnastics is not for me. So I think that motivated me a little bit. Plus, I have an older brother, and we had a house that we rented, and there was a barn across the street, and they had an indoor hoop. And so my brother would have me go up in the hay mound and rebound. If a ball bounced up there, I'd throw it down to him. And I said, hey, I want to do this. So that's how it started.
Well, you obviously ran with that because you were a great high school prep player. And, obviously, recruiting was so different back then. And yes. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tonya, I heard a story where Indiana did not have a scholarship available for you. Is that correct?
How do you know that? Yes.
I've done some research.
Yes, you did. That's where I wanted to go. And back then we had to pay for our way. We had to do auditions, except I didn't have to audition at Iowa State. But yeah, I wanted to go there, and there was a new coach, and she didn't have a scholarship left and really wanted me to come there. And I said, I'm getting full ride offers a lot of places. So whenever we played them, boy, did I take it to them.
Yeah. And then so Iowa State's head coach at the time was Deb Owing.
Correct.
And how did she contact you, and how did you get interested in Iowa State?
Well, I'm going to tell you that my high school coach was very helpful in contacting colleges.
Yep.
I was the first in the family to go to college. So I never really thought about it until, I started getting contacted. So he would send information out to colleges. And of course, I get letters from all over. And then I had to narrow it down because of paying for your own visit. Yep. And so Iowa State was one of them because Deb played at IU.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then there was another person from Indiana that was a year ahead of me. And then she was also recruiting another Indiana gal. We both were on the Indiana All-Stars together. So, yeah. But I'm going to tell you, the minute I stepped onto that campus, I knew that's where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't have to audition, so that was a good thing.
Well, at 6'1", obviously you were a center.
Yes.
But the one thing that I guess I've noticed and picked up by just seeing photos and, kind of learning about your career was that you're a really good shooter, mid-range. And I think at that time, probably centers didn't do that a lot, right? So how much you think that helped you, obviously, as you got into college basketball?
Well, I think it helped a lot. But what a lot of people don't know is that we didn't have a three-point line either. And And we only played with one size of basketball until my senior year.
That's when they switched to the smaller ball.
When they switched to the smaller ball, and it felt like a pea in my hand. But, so I don't know. I think that I can tell you that I used to go to this park and just shoot around, and a very good basketball player in the Leo area who was home for college came home and came to the park and said, "Hey, let's play these guys 2-on-2." Now this guy was like, whoa. And so we played, and then afterwards, after we beat him, he said, "I want to teach you a couple things." And one of them was my hook shot.
Yep.
That I loved that shot. But he also, talked about moving out, not just playing with your back to the basket, be a threat all over. So, yeah.
It obviously helped you.
Yes.
So your freshman year at Iowa State was the 81-82 season. And at that time, I know most of Iowa State games were in Hilton Coliseum.
Not my first one.
But you were still playing some games in what they would call the PEB back in your day, the physical education building. It's now called the Forker building.
Right.
Yeah. What was that like?
My first collegiate game was there in the PEB building. It was basketball, and we were playing, and I didn't care where we played. But then once we got to the Hilton Coliseum, then that was it. That was the best place.
Yeah, and I think by the time your sophomore year, it was all in Hilton Coliseum. Yep. And so, you played right away as a freshman, and then your sophomore year had a fantastic year, were second team All Big 8. And I just want to talk about a game during that year, if you can remember. You had 17 points and a win over Drake. And Drake had a great team with Lori Bauman and Wanda Ford coming off an Elite Eight. And I believe that was only the second time in Iowa State women's basketball history that you beat a ranked opponent. Do you remember, what do you remember from that game?
I remember Wanda Ford.
She was good, wasn't she?
She was very good. And let me tell you a story. A long time ago, we were watching a basketball game, and I think it was Drake, and they were showing highlights of old games. And there I was. Yeah. And I got up and I go, "Oh my gosh, look at that. There I am playing against Wanda Ford and Drake." And that was exciting.
Yeah, and then, next year was your junior year, and that's when, you kind of broke out as a sophomore, but your junior year was amazing and fantastic. And what happened in that junior year was one of the greatest games in Iowa State women's basketball history. And I'm going to rattle off what happened in that game. It was January 18th, 1984, against Nebraska. You scored a school record 42 points and had a school record 18 field goals made in only 25 attempts, and also grabbed 18 rebounds. What do you remember from that game? You have to have some memories and some recollections from that one.
I do. The only thing I remember is that when they told me how many points I scored, I couldn't believe it. When I think if you ask any basketball player, any athlete, when they have a game like that, I think you're just in a zone and you're just focused on what you're doing and what you're supposed to do. I didn't realize that I did all that.
Yeah. Well, that was 1984, Tonya, and that record still stands. And twice an Iowa State player has scored 41. Lindsey Wilson did it, and so did Ashley Jones. Is that something that that you still think about to this day, or does anyone ever bring it up to you that, hey, you still got that record?
No. The scoring record held for a while. Yep. And when it was broken, somebody asked me about that. And this is how I feel about records. They're made to be broken. Yeah. And I am just happy that someone is accomplishing those kinds of goals, and I think it's awesome. Yeah.
Well, and the other thing, Tonya, is that obviously you're a fantastic scorer, but you also did other things to help your team win, and you're also a good rebounder. And you also had a game where you had 23 rebounds, which is still also a school record.
Really?
Yeah. I believe you share it with Angie Welly now.
Okay.
Yeah. But like, how much pride did you take in also being a good rebounder?
I think rebounding was probably my favorite because it's a lot of heart
Yeah.
to get in there and battle. And that was one of the things that I really enjoyed doing, that and blocking shots. I don't know why, but I enjoyed those things. So, because a lot of it is heart
Absolutely.
and having a nose for the ball and working at getting in there and getting it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, heading into your senior season, which was 1984-85, you got a new coach in Pam Wittig.
Yes.
What was that transition like for you?
It was tough.
Yeah.
It was tough. And I'm going to be honest, she was a very good coach and I worked my butt off for her, but I never felt that I was hers.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because she didn't recruit me and the gals she brought in, and it wasn't like she treated me poorly, but you always have this feeling like, wow. But it was my senior year and I was going to play like I've always played. So no matter who was coaching.
Yeah. And you could kind of see the team starting to turn the corner that year. And you had some good teammates on your, and one in particular, Jane Lobenstein, was a really good point guard.
Oh yeah.
How much did she help your career as the facilitator, on that point?
She was amazing at getting the ball inside and handling the ball, and just so much fun to play with. And we still are in contact with each other today. Unfortunately, she can't be there when we're coming out. But, she was amazing.
Your senior year, you had probably your best year, average 18.5 points, 8.6 rebounds, first team All Big Eight. Something, during that year, you guys won a preseason tournament. I don't know if you remember this, but it was called the Women's Court Classic, and you beat Purdue and Seton Hall. That had been a really good accomplishment for your team at that time, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was, beating teams like that was always exciting.
And then what year was it when you did play Indiana? Do you remember?
We played them a couple years because what I always remember is Bobby Knight too, because when we went there and we had a shoot around, he would come out and talk to us.
Okay.
And when I auditioned there, I was late and I'm running through Assembly Hall and this man steps out. Bobby Knight's huge. He's a big guy.
I think he's 6'5", and
yeah. So, I remember those things, but they played at our place too because.
Yeah, your senior year they would have played at our. Yep.
I was having back spasms to where I couldn't. If they took me out of the game, I couldn't sit down. I had to keep moving, and I said, I am playing this game no matter what, because, I want to take it to them. So,
a night in the game I wanted to bring up to you is your final home game in your senior year. You played Colorado, and it happens still to this day where it's a doubleheader where you have a women's and men's game.
Oh, yeah.
Nowadays they flip-flop it, but I think back then they usually played the women's game first, right?
Yes. Correct.
So it's your final home game, and they honor you. But they didn't honor you at the women's game, did they? It was at the men's game, wasn't it?
Yes.
And I remember seeing photos, and you're in a tuxedo. And I remember going, how is she wearing a tuxedo? She's playing a game. But then I realized that it was at the men's game in front of 14,000 fans.
Yeah.
I mean, what was that experience like for you?
It was amazing. And people always go, why did you wear a tux? And I said, well, if you know me, I like to be different. I don't like to blend in with, so I'm like, I'm going to rent this tux. My parents were there, and
Yeah.
It was amazing. You know, Hilton didn't fill up like it does now.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, the fans that were there loved us just as much.
Yeah. Yep.
And supported us just as much. And it was amazing. I mean, my time at Iowa State is something I'll always cherish.
Yeah. I mean, help me out on this one too, Tonya. How did your jersey retirement go? Did it, was it retired that year, or did that come later?
It was that year.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there wasn't really like
But
a banner drop or anything like that.
No.
Yeah, yeah.
But then I came back out, and they did
Okay.
with Megan. Was it who? Or
Oh,
no,
yes, Megan Taylor probably.
whoever's the next one.
Yes.
So
Okay.
yes. So
Okay.
they did the whole banner thing then.
I got you. Okay.
There was before the banner, there was a it looked like a giant uniform that hung in the rafters.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but then they changed them to the banners, and that's when I came out
Yep.
and they did that. Yeah.
I mean, how proud are you to have number 42 hanging up there in Hilton?
I'm very blessed. I've been very blessed. I
Yeah.
feel blessed. I feel honored. Do you know this story that I had to wear number 43 for a while? Have you seen pictures with 43?
No. Tell me about it.
Somebody stole my uniform out of the laundry, where they do all
Yeah.
the uniforms. Somebody stole my uniform, and they're like, "Where is it?"
They
So
couldn't find it.
I had to wear number 43. So there's a lot of pictures with me in 43.
Okay. Well, I do have one. I do have the number 42 right here if you see that.
I see that.
Okay.
I see that. Excuse me.
Yeah. So, okay, after graduation, I guess I'm assuming that you were an education major at Iowa State?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you wanted to pursue basketball, right?
Yeah. So I went 5 years. So my 5th year, I did my student teaching
Okay.
at Ames middle school, and then I helped coach volleyball at Ames High School
Okay.
because we had to do that. Because it was just too hard to do student teaching while we played. So then I was also, Coach Wettig allowed me to be a student coach. So I'd work with the post players and do those kinds
Yeah.
of things. Before my last semester, I was walking by Coach's office, and she said, "Hey, somebody wants to talk to you." And there was someone from Australia that wanted me to go play pro. And I said, "Yeah, I'll be there." When? And they said, "Tomorrow." And I said, "I'm finishing my last semester of college.
Yeah.
Please call me next year because I'll do it." Well, they never did. But they started the NWBA. So I got asked to try out, and tryouts were in North Carolina. And they were going to have a team in Iowa, but they kept it more to the East Coast. So I made a team in Virginia, Richmond, Virginia, and it didn't last. It was less than a year that it lasted, but it was an experience I do all over again, and it was a great memory.
Yeah. So the team was called the Virginia Express.
Correct.
And what was travel and games like in that league?
Not great.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was not great. And we lived in hotels for a while, and then they said, "You got to get out and find a place." And the contract stated you either played basketball and went to school, or you played basketball and you worked.
Okay.
You couldn't just play because you weren't making beans.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So after that, Tonya, you decided to go into education and coaching, right? But before we kind of talk about that, when the WNBA formed, did you try to like make a team? Is that what I recalled?
Yes. There were three of us that had a trainer, and we trained for a year. And we were going to go to Detroit and try out just
Yeah.
because.
Well, you might as well give it a shot.
And so the weekend before we were to go, Nancy Lieberman Klein called and said, tryouts are canceled because of a collective bargaining dispute between the players and the coaches, and they didn't want scabs coming in and taking players'
Oh.
positions. So never got to do that.
I mean, you really felt good where you're at that time with your game and your shape. And
Oh,
yeah. I mean,
the older I got, the better I got, I thought. Because
when
I
I,
played
yeah,
against guys
yeah,
and just really worked hard. But I look at all these experiences like the Olympic tryouts and all these things as, it wasn't meant to be, it wasn't in the plan. And I've been blessed in many other ways. So I think
yeah,
they're experiences I would do all over again.
yeah. Well, let's kind of dive into what you have been doing for most of your life as being a teacher and a coach. And, you were the high school coach in Fort Wayne. Is that correct?
Yeah. I started my career at Fort Wayne Northside.
Okay.
Yes.
And for how many years were you the girls basketball coach there?
There, 13 years.
Okay. How was that like? What was that like for you?
Awesome. I loved it. I loved working with young people, teaching them the game, giving them the passion, being a role model as a female coach,
Yep.
showing them what a strong woman is. And I still get messages and things from former players,
Yeah.
that have been fighting breast cancer or
Yep.
whatever, thanking me for showing them how to be tough.
Yep.
And so I was there 13 years, and then I moved to a rural school, which I'm currently still at, but I coached there, where I'm at, for 13 years as a head coach as well. And then I decided I was going to retire from that, but then I got lots of phone calls. So a private school called me and said, will you come and be a varsity assistant? And it was a coach I admired. In fact, he's still coaching. He's one of the winningest coaches in Indiana. And I said, yeah, I would be happy to. So I did that for 3 years. And then I said, I'm just going to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been teaching for 37. This is my 37th year.
Wow. Are you getting close to calling it quits on that end too?
I say possibly next year, but I teach PE. So I have a great job.
Yeah.
I get paid to play, and I love the kids. It's not like I hate what I do. So right now it's going to be a year at a time, but next year is what I'm thinking. But
Well, good for you.
who
Good for you.
knows?
So, I mean, I do have one curious question. All those years you coached,
Uh-huh.
did you ever have a player go, Coach Burns, I didn't know that you had 33 school records and you were one of the greatest players in Iowa State women's basketball history? Did you ever have one of those?
I still have that from my students today. They will, I have a Hall of Fame ring. It's getting fixed now, and it better be done when I come out there. But my students ask about that. So then they Google me.
Oh, okay.
Because
What a beautiful thing Google is, right?
Yes. I don't talk about myself unless they ask me. And so, I've had over the years, and people will say, do you know? And my players would go, why don't you tell us? But Google's the big thing right now.
Yep. I hear you. Well, you just already kind of talked about it, but in 2000, you got the phone call that you got inducted into the Iowa State Athletics Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
What was that moment like when you found out that news?
It gives me goosebumps right now. I was like very humbled and again felt very blessed and probably cried a little bit. And it's a amazing honor.
Yeah, especially being the first women's basketball player to do so as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, Tonya, this has been an amazing talk we've
Yeah.
had. I do have just a couple more here, and
You're fine.
but I just want to say, on behalf of the ISU Letter Winners Club, we are thrilled that you're coming back next month. And if people don't know, and they should know, is that we are honoring the 50th anniversary celebration of women's basketball at Iowa State. And we're going to have a reunion, and we're trying to bring back all alumni, and you're one of them that's coming back. And how excited are you to come back that weekend?
Very excited. I love coming back there. And my husband, Matt, we've been married 2 years now. I think we've been together since 2016.
Okay.
But he's a basketball official.
So he knows the game.
Yes. So I met him when I was watching a game, and he came over and said hi, and then so he surprised me one year and brought me out there, and contacted people, and they had all this stuff planned. It was I love it. I am so excited about coming back, and so is he.
Well, that's great news. And one last question. Obviously, you love Iowa State. Very strong, very strong sentiments toward the school and the department. How proud of you are you to watch the women's basketball program under Coach Fennelly grow under leaps and bounds and to become basically a national power? How proud does that make you feel?
It makes me extremely proud. And not just the women's, but the men's program.
Yeah.
I mean, last night, I'm sitting in there watching that game, and it's amazing. And whenever I can watch the women, I've got them on too. But it's just, he has done such an amazing job. And I've told him before, I wish that I would have the opportunity to play for him.
Yeah.
That would have been amazing.
Well, you'll get to see Coach Fennelly and a bunch of your old teammates.
I have a basketball up here. The last time that we came out that he signed for me. He's awesome.
Yeah. Well, Tonya, thanks so much for joining us on our
you.
CyCast. This has been a great conversation. And
Yes.
once again, we'll see you in a month, and go Cyclones.
Yes, go Cyclones.